we're going to
Live.
meditate. So do I have all of my members? Is Mr. Grimm here? 1, 2, 3, 4,
Here.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Today is November the 19th, 2020, and it's dark out already at 6 o'clock, and we're going to begin the Audit and Finance Committee meeting this evening. I'm going to start by taking attendance. And Mr. Bergdorf.
Present.
Mr. Mayo.
Present.
Ms. Lakakis.
Right here.
Mr. Peter.
Here, Madam Chair.
Mr. Ray Joyce.
Present.
Mr. Grimm.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien. I'll come back to Joe and Mr. Clay.
Here.
Okay. I thought Joe was here. I don't see him. That might be him. All right. Pat, you'll let me know when Joe comes in. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. So we're going to move on here. We're going to start with previous business, and I'm going to start by approving the previous meeting minutes.
Motion.
Okay, I got a motion from Mr. Clay and a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. All right, well, now we're going to move on to number 2. And I believe that has been tabled at the request of the sponsor.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. All right. Number 3, excuse me. Number 3, adopting a general fund balance policy for Albany County. Is Mr. Riley here?
Madam Chairwoman, I am here.
Okay. Are you going to speak on number 3?
So we presented this originally last month. It was tabled by Mr. Peter to discuss some of the specifics, as well as some language that the lawyers wanted to include. We sat down with with myself, Mr. Peter, and some additional staffers. Came to some common ground on the terms, inserted the language that the lawyers liked, and I'd like to proceed with it if that's good for the body.
Okay, I'd like to
Madam Chair?
recognize, yes, Mr. Peter.
As I did in law yesterday, where this was passed unanimously, and I believe I was joined in becoming a sponsor with my colleague, Mr. Bergdorf. I want to thank Mr. Riley for coming together with this. What this did was establish a good backdrop for when these monies can be used in case of emergencies. In addition, it set a goal of between 10 and 15%, with after 12.5%, management and budget would come back to the legislature with ideas on either spending the monies or continuing to put it aside for reserve. And that was important. And I really appreciate Mr. Riley on his leadership and willing to work with us. As I stated previously in law, I'm excited to make a motion for this, and I will be co-sponsoring this as it moves forward.
Very good. Do I have any other?
Madam Chair, I raise my hand.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bergdorf.
Thank you. I'd like to echo what Matt said. I'm glad we're moving forward with this. I'm glad we came to common ground that was acceptable to the Office of Management and Budget. I do have a question for Mr. Riley, and I did ask to be a co-sponsor, so I'd like that noted here. Mr. Riley had said that one of the reasons, not one of the reasons, but one of the benefits of having a general fund balance policy was that you could be potentially looked more favorably on by the rating agencies when you go out to borrow. I know we have a number of tax anticipation notes, bondings in the pipeline, et cetera. Dave, when do we think that this will be advantageous to us in the county's credit rating?
So I I assume that the first time we are reviewed by S&P, that this will be looked upon favorably. I will have to actually defer to Ms. Rizzo on when we will be, next time we will be reviewed by S&P. I do not know if that's going to be before the tax anticipation notes or if it will be later on in the year. I just would like to defer to her if you're there, Sue, if you'd like to speak in.
Sure. We anticipate that we will be going out to borrow for our capital earlier in the year, next year, probably, hopefully, like February. So then we would anticipate that we're going to, S&P will give us an updated rating. I don't know, because of COVID, if we'll actually be able to increase our rating at this point. But I do think that I'm pursuing that for 2022, because I think our 2020 financials, when we get done regarding some of the things that we're working on regarding our debt and our debt reserves. So the other policy that they were looking for is the debt reserve policy, which I'm hoping that we get that one completed as well. I will ask S&P if we can get our rating increased. I was happy to see the last time we presented to S&P that we kept a stable rating, where so many other municipalities got underperformed and did not keep their stable rating. We're very happy to keep the stable rating. If it wasn't for COVID, I think we would have actually increased our rating. But did ask for these two policies, the fund policy and the debt policy. So we're doing everything we can to actually increase our rating, but I don't know if we'll actually get it this time, but I'm pushing for it in 2 years.
Thank you, Madam Controller. I have no further questions, and thank you, Chairwoman and Matt, for your ability to work this out.
Thank you, Mr. Bergdorf. Did I get a motion from Mr. Peter?
You did, Madam Chair.
Can I get a second? Okay, and I have a second from Mr. Bergdorf. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, unanimous.
Thank you.
Very much. All right, we will now move on to number 4. And that is, I'll just read it. Amended and restated bond resolution of the County of Albany, New York, authorizing the undertaking of a capital project for the Emergency 911 Communications Center, stating the estimated maximum cost thereof is $10 million. Appropriating said amount therefore and authorizing the issuance of $9 million of serial bonds of said county to finance said appropriation. Am I to understand that there is someone from the sheriff's office? Hello?
Yeah, William Rice is here with the other sheriff, with the Albany County Sheriffs.
Can you state your name again, Mr. Rice?
William Rice, yes.
Oh, yes, okay. Is it my understanding that this is to be tabled?
That's correct.
Okay, do you wish to have any further comments?
We're just tabling it due to the fact that we need a seeker. We're seeking a seeker, and that should be completed hopefully by December time.
Okay, very good.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Peter.
if since they are seeking until the seeker is finished, I would like to make a motion to table this.
Thank you very much. I got a motion from Mr. Peter. Can I get a second?
I can second the motion.
Okay, I got a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. I am now going to take this out of order, and I am going to go to the addendum. Is that correct? Oh, excuse me, number 16. Okay. And this has to do with the 2020 Department of Mental Health budget administrative adjustments.
That's very kind of you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. You are correct. This is an adjustment that we're requesting for the 2020 budget. The Office of Mental Health even in spite of the fact that everyone is holding back funds at the state level, they have managed to offer a kind of a cost of living increase for a very limited number of clinical positions. It's in the amount of $10,543. And we want to amend our budget, and then we have to attest to the fact to the state that that money is going to be used for those salary increases. Since we've already had a cost of living increase, this $10,543 will offset the county share.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
if there are no questions, I'd like to make a motion.
okay, I have a motion from Mr. Peter.
Second motion.
I have a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we do have an addendum to the agenda. And right now I would like Ms. Kennedy, could you please read the addendum to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair. Addendum 2 is bond resolution of the County of Albany, New York, authorizing the undertaking of a capital project for the Albany County Sheriff's Office Public Safety Building, stating the estimated maximum cost thereof is $2.2 million, appropriating said amount therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $2.2 million of serial bonds of said county to finance said appropriation.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Rice,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have any comments?
This 2.2 million should finish the project that we have started, the renovation project out at the public safety building.
Okay, do I have any comments from the members?
Madam Chair.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
I think Mr. Bergdorf was first.
Just a quick question, observation. I think I read elsewhere in the agenda that there was a negative seeker determination on this 2.2 million for Clarksville. Was that in the DPW section where there were a whole series of negative decks? Or am I not remembering correctly?
The seeker that we have in that project was back in 2018. It's which was 617 was the seeker number for this project. We're not deviating from the project. This is just to complete that project.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we had done the seeker before we did the bonding, because I thought there's a whole litany in DPW of negative declarations, and I somehow thought that this was included within. So anyway, I am absolutely fine with this.
Very good. Are there any other comments or questions?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Grimm?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, if Mr. Rice would just clarify the differences between this spending and the spending in item 4.
I'm not sure I have item 4. What is item 4? If you can.
Oh, the one we just tabled.
That was on the seeker.
Oh, the seeker is a different project. The item 4 was the 911 EOC project, which was completely separate than the renovations to the public safety building.
Okay, because they're both, the 911 center is being moved to the Clarksville, right?
That's correct. In the beginning of the stage of this, it was together, but then we had separated the two projects. It moved forward with the renovation portion of Clarksville, and then 911 kind of slowed down a little bit because of COVID. And now, recent months, they're going to move it to Clarksville as well. But this has nothing to do with that project at all.
All right, did this come on budget or?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you,
Madam
Mr. Grimm. Who's that?
Madam Chair, sorry.
Yes, Mr. Peter?
If there are no other comments, I'd like to make a motion to move this.
I got a motion from Mr. Peter.
I second it.
I got a second from, was that you, Mr. Bergdorf?
Yes.
Okay, I got a motion, a second from Mr. Bergdorf. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. All right, before I move to number 5, I would just like to recognize the other members of the legislature that are with us this evening. And first of all, my chairman, Chairman Joyce, Allison McLean Lane, Bob Beston, Dustin Reedy, and Matt Miller. If I'm missing someone, you can please feel free to state your name if I missed you. Very good. Okay, we're now going to move on. Yes? Okay, we're now going to move on to number 5. All right, number 5, authorizing an agreement with the Advanced Albany County Alliance and amending the 2020 Albany County budget. And I will recognize Mr. O'Connor.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Good evening.
Yes, this is the, what we're requesting here is the initial funding for the startup of the Advanced Albany County Alliance, the LDC that was approved earlier this month. And this is what we need to get things up and running, staffing, internal operating systems and the like.
They'll be picking them up in the morning.
Can somebody mute Bill?
Audit, we're good.
All right, thank you. Chairman Joyce,
Yes, Madam Chair,
do you have any comments?
I do. Just for everyone's background, for those of us who don't know, this is the seed money. This is the resources we're going to need to get our LDC and our economic development arm up and running for 2021. $500,000 out of a contingent for 2020. It's a strong investment. It's a good investment. Revenue generating, job creating. And we've got a great partner, Mr. O'Connor. And I thank everyone for their support. And I hope we can move this out tonight with a positive recommendation.
Thank you very much. Do I have any other comments from the members?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we're basically paying for 2021 cost, the startup cost, even though it's coming from the 2020 contingent budget. Is that correct?
Madam Chairwoman, if I could,
Yes.
the
First,
will
wait,
hopefully be cut
wait.
this year.
Pat, let everyone know who's talking.
Sorry, it's Pat Collins, counsel for the chairman.
Okay,
The transfer will be made this year. I realize it's the end of the year, but it will carry over into next year.
Because one of the questions I've had is, we say it's startup money, but of course, in the budget, we're hiring people.
Well, we're not hiring people, they are.
Yeah, the LDC, but where are they going to get the money in future years for those hires, if not from us? Maybe Kevin wants to speak to that.
Thank you, Legislator Grimm. Yeah, the idea here is to start to generate recurring revenue from the LDC, either through the projects that it works on in the way of fees or some other type of recurring revenue stream. There have been some, Schenectady County, as you may know, dedicate about $8 million a year to the Schenectady Metroplex for their operations. I understand that that's not possible for Albany County, and the hotel tax is dedicated to the Capitol Center convention entity. So I think we'll have to work on some other sources of funding going forward, but it may require additional funding from the county and at least the following year.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about, is what will be the county's ongoing commitment? Obviously, startup, there's some initial money for startup that you're not going to be required every year. But I'm wondering what our ongoing commitment might be. It seems to me it's unclear with you right now as to what we're going to be asked for each year.
Well, yeah, it's a little bit up in the air. You know, that this is all subject to the approval by the to be formed board of directors of the LDC. But the idea is to identify various sources of revenue. Saratoga County uses donations from private corporations in the way of memberships. Some other counties use land sales to fund their LDCs. There are a number of ways, all of which we'll be looking at. I understand that that using tax levy dollars is probably not the best way to do this. So the objective would be to identify a recurring stream of revenue that would be dedicated for the purposes of the LDC.
So Kevin, do other LDCs or similar organizations, are they self-sustaining based on what you described then, or is it a mixed bag?
I think it is the latter, Mark. It's a mixed bag. Rensselaer County, funds their operation through the revenues of their IDA. Schenectady County, as I said, has a carve out of the sales tax. Saratoga County is a combination of appropriations from the Board of Supervisors as well as private donations. So it is all over the map. It just depends on, I think Albany County being the largest county here and having the highest concentration of businesses here, I think we will have opportunity to do some things that some of our smaller adjacent counties may not be able to do.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Grimm. Mr. Bergdorf.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm going to support this. There's a timing for everything. This is probably the worst year to take $500,000 out of our contingent fund, given our deficit situation. But for 5 years, I have been an advocate for Albany County having an economic development program and a first-rate economic development executive. And I think that we have done that by creating the department and by hiring Kevin, who I have known for a great number of years and have tremendous confidence in. The one thing that does bother me is the same thing that bothers Mark, which is using tax levy dollars or tax revenues to continuously fund this. Now, we have in this county, and I heard Kevin say that I think it was in Rensselaer County, the IDA participates in the funding of their economic development group. One of the reasons last month I asked about who the bond counsel was for the county and for the IDA, and I found out that it was the same party, is I would suggest that we go to that law firm and instead of asking them, can we do it? We ask them, help us find a way to do this so that some of the private sector funds that come from economic development in Albany County and go to the IDA now could be used as a revenue stream for what should be the preeminent local development mechanism in the county. And I think it's done in other places. Someone said there's a law passed in 2018 that prohibits it, but yet I'm hearing it still happens. And I know that in Colony, the Colony IDA contracts with the regional chamber to administer their small business loan programs. So I know under certain circumstances that the IDA can use a not-for-profit to fund economic development. And Kevin, what I'm urging you to do with the county attorney is to find a way to tap into some of the economic development funds. We have a regional development corporation. We have an IDA. There are people with there are institutions under our care, custody, control, somewhat at an arm's length, that should be supporting your effort. And I'm going to support this seed money. and I'm going to support this program, and I'm going to support you. But I'd like a commitment that there will be a full-scale effort to try to find other than tax dollars after 2021.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bergdorf. Mr. Peter.
Yeah, I want to add my support to this, but also make the comment that, while this may be a bad economic time, the opportunity is potentially extremely ripe for this type of organization.
Absolutely.
Especially with the wind power stuff going on the port, what we have to also look at is not just a dollar for dollar on revenue streams, although I completely agree with my colleagues that to the best of our ability, we should offset the cost with an independent revenue stream. However, the value to the county in administering grants, especially small business grants, as we've just discussed, and hopefully we'll be approving later, job creation, especially amongst those communities that have been hit with disinvestment and things of that nature, they generate ineffable returns, right? Like in increased property tax values, increased abilities to invest in those neighborhoods. And so while I agree with my colleagues that we should look to as many revenue streams, I'm also supportive of this being partially funded and supported, from tax dollars. As this year shows, there's going to be a return that may not be strictly revenue generating. Getting hundreds of jobs at the port, for example, that brings in sales tax revenue, personal income tax revenue. Obviously, that's more of the state, but also property value revenue that comes to the county is also valuable and may not generate a revenue stream for this organization, but certainly is vital to the efforts of the county. So while I do agree, I also want to just put in mind that there's going to be some other things that the organization hopefully is able to do that may not necessarily return a direct revenue stream, but should be accounted as a success for the county. So again, I'm proud to co-sponsor this. I'm excited that Kevin's running this. If there are no other questions, Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion.
Thank you. Before I take the motion in a second, I just want to say that one of the things about forming this LDC, when you think about where we are now and how the whole country has been hit with the economic downturn, it is our responsibility to ensure that when we come out at the other end of this, that we have prepared to move forward. And I think this is going to help us take a giant step out of this valley that we are in right now. And so I think this was something that I think was not only well planned, but also I think it was a terrific idea to let people know that there is hope at the end of the rainbow, because we do have to prepare to give people jobs. And so I am another one who is greatly in favor of this. So I'm going to take that motion from Mr. Peter, and can I get a second?
I'll second.
I got a second from Ms. Lakakis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, unanimous. We will now move on to number 6. And I just want to remind everyone, there is a meeting at 7 o'clock. And so please be mindful of your comments. Number 6, authorizing an agreement with the Advance Albany County Alliance for the purposes of providing services to assist the economic recovery, again, of Albany County, and amending the 2020 Albany County budget.
Hey, Madam Chair, it's Andrew again.
Chairman Joyce?
Yes, this measure that we're voting on now is born out of the output of our COVID Economic Recovery Task Force, which I stood up, at the height of the pandemic. We tasked yourself and Mr. Peter to work with Mr. Purley on the side of the minority and with staff to work with local small businesses, work with Mr. O'Connor, and work with other local economical or economy experts, talk about what we can do to see our way through the pandemic. So our initial idea was to do small business loans, a small business construct for small businesses in Albany County. And this funding that we're doing now is the immediate output of that task force. And it was out of, in 2019, we had the foresight to set aside roughly $225,000 for what we called community development. And, we had a lot of ideas for that funding, but we stayed put. We sat on it for a number of months, given the constraints from the pandemic and given the economical impact. So we used some of that funding. What we're going to do is send that funding over to the LDC when we stand it up in 2021, and they're going to administer a grant program for businesses across Albany County to set aside funding for these businesses that have been affected by the pandemic, administrative issues, legal issues, taking the kind of politics out of the decision making of it and putting it in the hands of the professionals. And we'll be working closely with Mr. O'Connor and his group as we kind of develop a process moving forward. But that's what this funding is for, this measure is for, and I'm hoping our members can see their way to send this out tonight with a positive recommendation.
Thank you, Chairman Joyce. Mr. Peter.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chairman Joyce, for allowing me to serve on the CERT committee. And thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for leading that effort, which came out with a very positive report on some very good items. I'm extremely supportive of this. We did a very long and sort of arduous interview process of people both from rural and urban settings, suburban environments, and seeing the various different ways in which people needed help. And the largest one was that sales generating entities of small businesses that specifically had issues and trouble getting some federal relief. And that included, bed and breakfast and sort of the Altamont area, to places in the malls, to places in the city. And, what we took from that was that it was one in the county's best interest always to support small business, but in this case to provide a lifeline if it would see someone through the pandemic, as it's much easier to help an existing business get through a temporary issue than start a new business or promote a new business on the tail end. And that's why this is so important. It's not going to be the one solution that's going to solve it, but for those businesses that can't restock their shelves to restart their business, for those that can't pivot during this pandemic, or to those that might be delayed in paying rent by a month or two, but after that are financially stable, that is something that we want to make sure that we helped early on. We want to make sure that we were helping throughout the county and that we had as much geographic parity as we could, matching that up with need, and that we specifically focused on those who weren't able to get federal relief and aid. So once again, I'm extremely supportive of this, and I'm hoping as well that it gets a positive recommendation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peter. I must say that this task force was very educational for myself, Mr. Peter and Mr. Purley. We spoke with small business owners and people representing small business groups. And one of the things that we did find out there was that there were a lot of people that were unable to not only apply, didn't know how to apply. Also, if we found out if folks didn't have some type of relationship with the banking institutions, they were also at a real disadvantage. And as I look across the nation and with National Association of Counties and other entities, the main thing that has come out is that we must support small businesses. As we continue to look at the malls and places that are shut down, when we talk about shop local, what's going to happen, people over the winter, I believe, will have to go to their local stores. I believe that Central Avenue and Lark Street and Madison Avenue and other places, throughout the county, even up in hill towns, people will have to remain where they are and shop in those stores in order to maintain their household. So with that in mind, if they do that, small businesses will thrive and also keep the economy going. So I just want to thank the chairman for his foresight and putting this task force together. And I just want to let the rest of you know that it was very worthwhile as we listened to business owners, small business owners. from all over the county. So if there's no other questions or comments, I would like to entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I did raise my.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Bergdorf.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to be listed as a co-sponsor. And I'd also like to add, while where you stand depends upon where you sit. As you talked about certain neighborhoods in the city and in the hill towns, we have the same problems on Route 155 and Old Loudon Road and the mini malls.
Oh, yes.
Here in Colony. And I would just like to make sure that this is a transparent process by which everyone countywide will have an equal standing to submit an application. And I asked that of Kevin, and I also asked, what is the, we're doing so many things so quick. We have given you the ability to file articles of incorporation. We have given you seed money. You may not yet have a board. You may not have yet had a meeting. So it's almost unfair to ask you, when do you think the timing for these types of grants might be available? Because people, small business, people that I talk to today are really at the end of their rope. So I don't know if you can illuminate on the potential timing for something like this.
And the expectation, Mr. O'Connor, is that just as he said, maybe you can't do it. And so just, we'll be happy with your response if you say that you can't give us a date. Okay.
Well, Chairman, Madam Chairwoman, I do know the desperate need out there. As many of you have, I've been talking to businesses that are just flat out threatening with going out of business. And I can commit to you that the LDC will do everything within its powers to get this money out the door as quickly as possible. I was pleased to see that you decided on going with a grant program as opposed to a loan program, which would have slowed the process down. But I think it's safe to say that we will get these grants out early in Q1 of 2021.
Thank you, Kevin.
Madam Chair?
All right, thank you very much. All right, so I would like to, if there are no other comments, I'd like to.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Grimm, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I talked a lot about this at the other meetings, but one of the things I want to make sure that we do is when we give out this grant money, we track how successful it was. That, if our intent was to do X, did we really do X? Which is something we should do with all the government money doing. I wish we could do more of it. But I certainly think under these circumstances, we should be very clear about who got the money, for what purpose, and was that purpose realized?
Okay, thank you for your comments, Mr. Grimm. Can I, Mr. Peter?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was going to make a motion to move this.
I was going to entertain a motion. Thank you. I have a motion from Mr. Peter.
I'll second.
I got a second from Ms. Lakakis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Very good. Number 7. Number 7, here we go. Number 7, amending the 2020 county budget to provide funding for the commissions on redistricting.
Hey, Madam Chair, this is Andrew again.
Chairman Joyce.
And you and Ms. Cunningham has done most of the heavy lifting and most of the work getting us to this point with redistricting. But this is money that we must set aside by law to fund our redistricting efforts moving forward. We definitely don't want to underfund our efforts moving forward. And again, I hope we can ask this committee to send this out with a positive recommendation tonight. And any money that is not used for this effort will go back into the general fund. I don't know if you had anything else to add to that, but that's basically what we're trying to do with this.
I'm very happy that we are ahead of the curve here. We will be ready with this funding now to begin we have been taking names for people for the commission. And so, because I realized that we have a meeting in 15 minutes, I'm just going to say thank you and Mr.
Madam
Peter.
Chair, I'd like to, if there are no questions, I'd like to make a motion.
I have a question, if I might. Madam Chair?
Mr. Grimm.
Yeah, we're just giving you a block of money here, 400K, and I understand it's needed for redistricting, which is required. But will the legislature have an opportunity to review and vote on the line items that ultimately will compose this 400,000? In other words, you're going to do X, Y, and Z with this money. Will we have an opportunity to vote on each line item as we typically do with an agency?
Mr. Grimm, this is Andrew.
Okay.
I'd like to get there. I mean, and that's going to be a discussion in the coming weeks and months as we kind of move forward. But I would absolutely like to get to that point where we can, line by line, what are we spending it on, and when, and why, and like we do with everything else.
Yeah.
So while it's not been established yet, I would like to get there. So the answer is yes.
No, I understand, Chairman, that you have to figure out how you're going to do this, but that would be wonderful if that could happen. Thanks very much.
I think it's something that will happen, but I also see this as being much cheaper than the $2 million that we spent on the last federal lawsuit.
I support that.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Being part of that lawsuit, I couldn't help myself. Mr. Peter.
The 3 million and 400,000, I'm for the 400,000.
If there's no other questions.
Let's make a motion. I'll second.
Okay, so I got a motion from Mr. Peter and a second from Ms. Lakakis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Madam Chair, you're muted.
Or maybe she is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Did you hear me with the motion and the second? Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to number 8 now. Did you hear me when I said we only got 15 minutes left?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
No, we missed that. That means two minutes for each item. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So
Rapid
number
fire.
8, I would like to now
No pressure.
recognize Ms. Rizzo amending the 2020 Albany County budget, bonded and debt index reserve.
Madam Chair, and to the Audit and Finance Committee, the Department of Audit and Control is requesting authorization to transfer $7 million from the county's bonded indebtedness reserve fund to its capital reserve fund. The request $70 million transfers are amounts attributable to unexpended bond proceeds whose corresponding debt has been exhausted. Please approve. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Mr. Bergdorf.
Sue, I want to commend you for doing this. Having some experience with one of the largest bonding operations in the nation, I know that oftentimes clients borrow more than they need for a project. And this just happens to be the leftover funds from 4 bond issues from 2006 to 2010. And I would hope, now this is money that we will not have to spend on debt service in 2021. So the question I would ask you, and I don't, or not the question, the challenge that I would make to you is to go through every existing bond or have your financial advisors do it and find out other orphan balances that exists in our debt service reserve fund, because this is probably, I don't know if it's the tip of the iceberg or half the iceberg or 3/4 of the iceberg, but given all of our bond issuances since 2006, there's probably significant other monies that can help us at a time of need. You're to be congratulated for doing this, and I'm going to support it. I'd like to be a co-sponsor of it. And if there are no other questions, I would move it.
Okay, I accept that motion from you, Mr. Bergdorf.
Second, Madam Chair.
I got a second from Matt Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Rizzo.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're off on number 9. And that is bond resolution of the County of Albany, New York, authorizing various capital improvements for the Department of Public Works, stating that the estimated maximum cost thereof is $12,721,000, appropriating said amount therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $12,721,000 of serial bonds of said county to finance said appropriation. Is Ms. Raimondo here or hello? Who? I'm trying to figure out who's speaking to this. I had someone from DPW. Was that incorrect?
That was my fault. I don't think I invited her.
Madam Chairwoman, I can step in and grab this one if that would be beneficial to the committee.
Yes, it would be. Thank you, Mr. Riley.
Of course. So this is a request, as you said, for $12.7 million roughly. This ties to the capital plan projects that were already approved in our existing capital plan. And it goes through all the projects. I do know the department is currently evaluating to see if all of these will be needed. They just went for a bulk authorization, and we will determine before we go to bond whether or not we will need all the dollars. And obviously, if we're not going to proceed with the project, we will not bond that money.
All right, do I have?
Mr. Riley?
Okay, that's Mr. Bergdorf.
If we are approving this, can we ask the Department of Management and Budget to affirmatively respond to the Audit and Finance Committee and the DPW Committee of any projects that they determine that they are not going to proceed with? Because I assume when we authorize the funding and we authorize the seeker, we're doing it all. So if there are decisions made down the line that change, I think we as members of the legislature deserve an opportunity to know what was taken off the table and or if schedules are going to change.
Will do, of course.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Peter.
if there are no other questions, I'd like to make a motion to move this.
I got a motion from Mr. Peter. I'm waiting for. I got a second. Was that you, Mr. Clay?
Yeah.
Okay, I got a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. We're now going to move on to number 10. Mr. Slatsky, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, amending 2020 Department of Residential Health Care Facilities Budget Administrative Adjustments.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. These adjustments we make at the latter part of every year. We hope at times in the beginning of the year to fill specific positions when they are unable to be filled. And you can see most of these changes over $1 million due at overtime, compensatory time, and per diem. So we're moving money from positions we could not fill into those lines. And then there's a few other budget lines that were underfunded, and we need to fund them so that we balance at the end of the year. I want to point out that we're using budgeted lines approved for 2020 to pay for this. So it's budget neutral. It's not costing anything. We're just moving money around in our budget to fund under budgeted budget lines.
All right, thank you very much. Let's see, do I have, okay. I have no question. Okay, I'm trying to. Okay, you got a motion from, I got a motion from Mr. Clay. How about a second?
Second.
I got a second from Ms. LaCastris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you so much, Mr. Slatsky, for joining us this evening.
Thank you. You all have a great evening.
Okay.
Hi, Larry.
Bye-bye now.
All right, we're now on to the best part of the whole evening. Number 11 or 12 through 15 anyway. Number 11, authorizing the acceptance of grant funding and then agreement with the United States Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs regarding the comprehensive opioid, stimulant, and substance abuse program.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Mike McLaughlin from the County Exec's Office. Thanks for the time this evening. This is the COSIP grant. The county, on behalf of the lead board, that's Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program, applied for the grant and was awarded close to $900,000 for 3 years. This will fund the lead program and allow us to kind of return the program back to its previous functionality, which there had been a change in leadership of the program, and there's now a new executive director. So this kind of serves as the funding for the program moving forward.
Are there any questions or comments for Mr. McLaughlin?
Quick question, Mike. Quick question, Mike.
Okay, Mr. Bergdorf.
Where will these monies be spent? Which department, or are they spread out between departments?
No, we are accepting the grant on behalf of LEAD. This funding will be spent by the LEAD board for the executive director, for the caseworkers and things of that nature.
Okay, all right.
We are simply the acceptor of the grant and the pass through.
Oh, yes. Okay, Mr. Bergdorf?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much. Can I get a motion?
Motion, Madam Chair.
I got a motion from Mr. Peter.
Second, madam.
I got a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Now, number 12,
Thank you.
13, 14, and 15. Okay, let's get on with this. 12, authorizing the cancellation and chargeback of an unenforceable delinquent real property tax lien on 166 3rd Street in the city of Albany.
Madam Chairwoman, I'll grab that one. This was an unenforceable tax. It was a property acquired by a school. It was one of the charter schools. It passed through the normal 3-year correction window. So that's when we have to come back to you do a cancel and correct. It's nothing out of the ordinary.
Very good.
Motion.
I got a motion from Mr. Clay.
Second.
I got a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Now we're on to number 13, and that is authorizing the correction of the tax roll for the town of Bethlehem.
Madam Chairwoman, this was a property acquired by the town of Bethlehem. Seems that the assessor's office failed to acknowledge the transfer, therefore it didn't get its municipal exemption. Should have been wholly exempt on the 2017 tax roll. So this is to correct the 18, 19, and 20 tax roll down to 0, because that's the 3-year window we can do.
Okay, thank
Madam
you very
Chair.
much. Mr. Peter?
If there's no questions, I'd like to make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, I got a motion from Mr. Peter. I got a second from Mr. Kakis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, number 14 now,
14,
and that's
Bradford
rescinding,
Street.
Lynn?
Oh, no, I was just reading it, sorry. Bradford
Okay.
Street.
Rescinding the authorization to convey real property pursuant to resolution number 250 for 2019, and authorizing the conveyance of 507 Bradford Street and 509 Bradford Street located in the city of Albany.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is just a basic transfer of 2 empty lots that are adjacent to each other to another adjacent owner. It's just a basic transfer.
Madam Chair, if there are no questions.
Okay,
I'd like
Ms.
to make a
Lakakis,
motion.
I got a
Like to make a
motion from
motion.
Ms. Lakakis. I got a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, unanimous. Okay, now, number 15. Rescinding the authorization to convey real property pursuant to resolution number 439 for 2020 and authorizing the conveyance of 542 First Street located in the city of Albany.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is a sale back to a former owner. As I'm sure you folks saw in the backup, we foreclosed on a property for $5,000, which is highly, highly unusual. Fortunately, the owners caught that before the land bank closed on it and were able to sell it back to them for the taxes and interest, and it will return to their ownership.
Thank you very much. Are any questions?
Nope.
Motion.
I'd like to make a motion.
I got a motion from,
Go Clay beat me.
Peter.
I got a motion from Mr. Clay.
He's a quick one. You got to watch him.
Yeah.
I know, I'll second it though.
Okay, I got a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. I made it. So now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, I got a
Second.
motion from Ms. Clegg, a second from, Mr. Pappas, got a second from Mr. Peter.
See you in a minute.
Have a good night,
Wait a
everyone.
minute.
Good night,
All right.
everybody.
Good night and good evening.